Lindsay Davis will make you rich and you don't have to do anything. That's a good intro right off the bat, huh, Lindsay?
Absolutely, I love that one. That's my favorite one so far.
I like what it is you do. You basically get people, it sounds like all over the country, but really, let's say someone who's in a very expensive location and they're looking for a cheap property. They can't get it in their location. You might be able to be the one who can help them find a property and do everything so they don't have to do anything. You send checks to that person and then they get rich. Sound good?
That sounds perfect. That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, why don't we tell the people about a little bit about what you do? Because I think this is going to be fun. So, at the first, right off the bat, tell us a little bit about yourself. Then we're going to get right into ways that you make people rich.
That was a great intro, and that's exactly what we do at Spartan Invest. So I'm Lindsay Davis, CEO of Spartan Invest and Atlas Rental Property, which is our property management company. And our mission goal is to create mailbox money for investors. So we go out, purchase properties, do full scale renovations to those properties. We'll go ahead and place the tenant and then sell those properties to investors while we continue to manage them after the fact. So we're kind of your one-stop shop. We also have a new construction company as well. So if you wanted to purchase a renovated property or purchase a new construction property for the purposes of renting it out and diversifying your portfolio, getting cash flow, having positive cash flow, which not a lot of states can still offer that. We are located in the Southeast, so we are in Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee. All of the Southeast is primarily good for that. Outside of Florida, Florida's kind of a different game, different ball game. We are not in Florida, but that's our primary goal is to facilitate the ability to purchase in areas where the numbers still make sense. And in a lot of places, most of our investors are in areas like California, like Hawaii, like New York, where it just you're not able to generate any kind of decent rate of return. So that's who our client is, and that's what we do.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, and a lot of them are from whatever New York, California, some of the the more expensive places in the country, and they are talking about how hard it is to find a property that cash flows. When it sounds like you're one of those places, you operate in a theater where there's cash flow positive properties pretty easy, and if you're running the process for them, they don't have to worry about some of the fixing the toilets as an example because
Yeah.
they're going to get checks mailbox money as you call it.
Well, our ideal client, I mean, anybody can come in and purchase with us, but our primary goal is to make real estate investing accessible to those that have a W-2 job, that want to branch out outside of your typical 401k investments and do offer college fund options outside of a 529 plan. We have a lot of investors that as soon as they have a child, they come and purchase a property, do a 15-year note, and that's their college fund plan. But because based on the appreciation that's going to be generated, you're going to have your tenant pay off of that property while you're raising your child. And then after the property's paid off in 15 years, you're selling it and there's your college fund. So just allowing investors those different options without them actually having to learn the market, go find the property, hire the contractor, ensure the contractor did what you paid them to do, uh, manage the property, doing maintenance on those. Heaven forbid you have a tenant that has to go into eviction. What does that process look like? Are you following fair housing federal regulations? Like there's a million things that go into how you're going to invest in real estate, especially in the single family space. And that's why we have a job is that we're handling all of that for them.
I know this is gonna be hard, but what type of and almost an impossible, answer for you to supply, but what kind of rates of return theoretically should I be looking at if I wanna do such a venture like this with you guys?
No, I think that's a really great question and one that we're tracking. We want to know. So and it varies because in all of our markets, the renovated properties, our average sale price is about 165,000. Now,
Mm.
on that, we've got if you purchase it all with cash, because that's going to definitely change your overall rate of return. You purchase it with cash, you're looking anywhere from 6 to 7%. If you
Mhm.
finance the property, you're looking anywhere from 9.5 to 10.5% is what we average. And that's with a lot of people are like, well, with interest rates, how is that rate of return? Well, we're buying down the interest rates for our clients. So if you're purchasing a property with Spartan Invest, you're going to get a 5.5% interest rate. So that's
Mm,
how we're able to keep those rate of returns and those cash flows. I mean, our average cash flow right now for renovated properties is around 275 to 325 is what you're going to see after 25% down. So yes, absolutely, you're tracking all of that. And if you're talking to a turnkey provider that is not tracking that, that's a great question to ask and make sure that you want that they know what their averages are for providing those investments to clients. And on the new construction space, the returns are lower because the price point's higher. Everything's brand new, everything's more expensive, but you do get kind of the comfort of knowing you get the 1 year home warranty, and then you've got little to no maintenance in the first 5 to 7 years. Whereas renovated properties, even though we're doing large renovations to the house, there's still
mhm.
that possibility of a house built in the 60s, something going wrong with it. So there is that give and take. Our new construction, if you finance the property, you're going to see a rate of return anywhere from about 7.5 to 8%.
Yeah, and by the way, I know those are illustrative and, just for educational purposes, but thank you very much for even answering that question because I think it's a hard question because I know you
It
deal
is.
with a lot of different clients. By the way, first, I always forget this. How do people get a hold of you if they want to do so? I always forget that.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more, if you want to look at our available inventory, if you just want to kind of see what we've got out there, just spartaninvest.com. You can have access to all of that. We are going to ask for your contact information if you want to see the inventory, but yes, no obligation. You can check it out and that way you can do your own assessments of the inventory. We also have a lot of information online, whether it be market reports, so every market that we're in, you can download a breakdown of that particular market. Who are the big employers? Why is this a target market for turnkey rentals? For Birmingham, Huntsville, Chattanooga, all of those markets that we're in, you can download that as well. And then we also have an investor education guide where you can download that and see what all the renovations that we do, the areas that we target, even specific to like the zip codes. Like, hey, this zip code, we like this zip code because XYZ. We don't go anywhere near this zip code because of crime rates or whatever. So it breaks down, it's very detailed. If you get just extremely bored over a weekend, it's very lengthy. But yeah, if you're interested, it's available on our website.
All right. Once again, that's SpartanInvest.com, right?
Yes.
And how do we spell that just in case?
Spartaninvest.
Sweet. All right. .com. All right. Awesome. I always forget that. And by the way, let's do a reset. My name's Kenneth French with Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs, hanging out with Lindsay Davis. So, okay. So, why you? Why Lindsay Davis? Why are you guys the best?
Whew. Honestly, I could go on for a very long time about why
Right.
I personally
Yeah.
think that we're the best, but I think it's a lot to do with just how our company is structured. And our employees are on a pay for performance plan, and what that means is that even our property management team, even the employees that we've got that are responsible for making sure that the tenant pays their rent, part of their pay structure is based on actual rent collection. And that is across the board. And yes, it is very time consuming and it makes me want to pull my hair out sometimes to have over 70 employees with all different bonus structures and all different pay plans. However, setting it up that way has everyone aligned correctly with, hey, if we don't have our occupancy where it needs to be, then our property management team doesn't hit their full pay potential. So everyone's bought into the same goal, and all of those goals will benefit the investor. We don't, if we don't hit the certain revenue, well, if the property is not rented, if the investor is not cash flowing, we are not collecting our 9% management fee. So again, all of those incentives are aligned. And I think that's really what makes us the best is just kind of how the internal structure is set up to benefit the investor. Because honestly, at the end of the day, the Spartan Invest, the turnkey portion of it, we're house flippers and we're doing a lot of on the renovation side. Like if the roof is older than 5 years, we're replacing the roof. If the HVAC's older than 5 years, we're going to replace that. Every house gets a new water heater. We're checking electrical. We're scoping the sewer lines, septic tanks. We're checking as much as we possibly can on that construction side. But the overall performance, really the meat and potatoes of the investment is going to be the property management piece of it. And I think that gets lost a lot of times with real estate investors, and that they want to focus so much on the property and not the longevity of it. I say, hey, the house and Spartan were kind of the prom date, but the management, I mean, that's your spouse. Like, that's for the long haul. And so setting it up to where for the longevity of it for the investors, I think is really what sets us apart.
I like that. I like that. So give us one example of where you've completely turned it around for a client. The client was whatever, I don't know, looking for whatever, they're low net worth, and then all of a sudden, because you guys helped them so much, now they're billionaires or something like that. Just kidding, by the way. Throughout one example, you've totally helped out an investor.
I've got a lot of them. Probably my favorite is one in particular investor that purchased with us really when we were nobody. This one investor, before, I'd say probably when we started in 2010, 2011, Birmingham was not as well known as more of an ideal area for investing in real estate. Birmingham's not very sexy, so it's been kind of challenging to bring people to Alabama. And when we were first starting the company, we would fly people out on our dime just to say, "Hey, come check this out. We know we've got something here."
Mm,
And we had one particular investor that purchased a ton of properties with us. I think she purchased 12 or 13 properties with us back in 2013.
mm,
So what happened is that she lost her father at a young age and was left a lot of land. She decided to do a 1031 exchange when she became an adult. She sold the land, purchased a bunch of properties for cash with us. Now, that happened in 2013. The cash flow and the profit that she saw from all of those properties from doing that 1031, so she avoided the huge capital gains tax using that 1031, and then was able to leave her job and start her creative design company where she's now setting her own hours. She's raising her son, spending a ton of time with him, and we check in all of the time. She's been on our podcast, she's come to some of our conferences and spoke just about how powerful the investment was, and how much money she's able to make now, given look at where it came. You talking about from 2013 to 2025, how much her properties have appreciated, how much more she's getting in rent, and how it just keeps snowballing in the positive. So that's probably my favorite example of how we've helped an investor not necessarily become a billionaire,
right.
but given them the freedom. It's a long haul, it's a long investment, is not a get rich quick scheme, but how helping that investor allowed them to do what they wanted and create kind of their financial freedom to where she's still working. She's not working, but she's doing what she wants. She's setting her own hours, and she has that cushion as well. So that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I think real estate investing, people don't realize. I think it's if you're a flipper, maybe, but it's hard to, get rich quickly with real estate. But I think over time, real estate's a good foundational investment. I mean,
Absolutely.
one, hopefully, if you're buying it, with low down and it's growing, your cash on cash rate of return is going to be good. Plus the tax savings, it's a good overall investment. But it's not what people are thinking. It's get rich scheme quickly. But like what
Right.
you're doing, I think makes a lot of sense because I think there's so many people who are in very expensive markets. Overseas, as an example, they want to get into the US or let's say the Northeast or, SoCal, and they want to buy in instead of buying a property for $1 million, which doesn't cash flow. They can buy, I think you said $160,000 property, which is going to cash
Mhm.
flow. And if it's in cash, you're going to make a lot of money on that. You know what I mean? I think it's really beneficial for what you're doing for so many people out there. So obviously you have a good background. You know what's going on as far as turnkey. What's the downside for an investor who, is looking at a turnkey, let's say a project with you? What's the downside? And there's a reason I'm asking that, and I'll dovetail that with my next comment.
I would probably say the downside of this is that there is more meat on the bone if you do it yourself. And
Mhm.
just, hey, full transparency in that we are not a non-for-profit company and that we have to make money because we've got to pay employees and et cetera, et cetera. So if you wanted to get into real estate investing on your own, going out and finding the property, getting that property renovated, and then managing it yourself, you're going to be able to generate a higher rate of return than we're going to be able to provide you. just because we're going to have to make money. Now we're still selling the properties at market value. They have to get appraised. So if it's not at an if it doesn't appraise, then you're not buying the property. So of course we're not selling above market value. However, you could come into a property with a little bit more equity if you were doing the legwork.
No.
But again, it's that time. It's the time that we sell essentially.
Yeah, and then the final element to the dovetailing that I was talking about was now explain a little bit more about the mailbox money because I think that's the upside. So we just talked about the downside. Now let's talk about the upside of the mailbox money. So really, what does that really look like at the end of the day? Meaning the clients getting the check, et cetera. What does that mean?
Well, so we are built to essentially handhold the entire process. Since most of our investors are outside of the state of Alabama, once you've picked out your property, once you've, kind of talked to one of our wealth advisors, you've evaluated all of our properties and you say, this is the one that I want to move forward with. Well, you're going to place that property under contract and then you're going to go to our closing coordinator. And that closing coordinator is going to walk you through and set up everything from your closing date, mobile notary, the closing attorney, making sure the title's done, working with you on getting a third party inspection. We don't do those in house. Always get a third party home inspection. So they're going to help you coordinate that. If you like, we do have some investors that are like, you know what? I think I'm going to call them myself. Totally fine, but we're still here to do that. They're going to coordinate with the appraiser, make sure the appraiser has access to the property, and they're really going to work to make sure that Spartan, you, closing attorney, all parties, lender are on the same page for closing. So that's completely taken off the table for you to handle. Then you get passed to our investor relations team. Once you've closed on the house, you're now officially a part of our property management team. They're going to set up a call with
Mm,
you, walk you through your portfolio or walk you through your Appfolio portal, which is the platform in which we use. They're going to see if you've got any questions and they're going to kind of set the expectation from the communication side. So they're going to let you know, hey, I'm going to tell you when you're going to getting a deposit. I'm going to tell you when you're up for a renewal. I'm going to let you know if you have any maintenance. If anything's over $500, I've got to talk to you. You and I've got to have a conversation so you can approve this unless it's an emergency. But
mhm.
we're going to proactively communicate all of these things for you. And then, you're going to get that on a monthly basis. And then once a quarter, we're picking up the phone and calling you and saying, hey, making sure everything is good. Do you have any questions? Anything like that. So,
Uh,
really, the goal of it is you're going to get an email that says, hey, here's what happened with your portfolio. This property they paid on time. This property they paid late, but you got a late fee on there, so that's the discrepancy. This one we had to send a plumber out because a kid flushed their toothbrush down the toilet, so we had to go take care of that. But this is what's going on, and here is your money, and then we ACH that into your bank account, and that's really it. There is a lot more back and forth in the event that things go poorly. If we do have to go through the eviction process, we level up that communication. We do weekly updates to let you know, hey, okay, we've got a court date set and stuff like that. But as long as everything is going really well, if you want to hear from us more, we can work on that. But we do have a lot of investors that are like, nah, I'm good. Please don't call
Yeah.
me. That's
People are gonna
fine.
hire you guys so that you guys could do it. They don't wanna see the sausage being made in this if someone
No, and
couldn't
that's
use the sounds of it, yeah.
completely fine. We have some investors that want to talk to us every week, and we have some that are like, "Hey, I'm good. I don't as long as I've got money coming to me, don't call me." So we're here to cater to you because that's our job. That's how we're set
Yeah.
up.
I totally get it, I totally get it. So, how about this? In closing, give us one little, tidbit, one good property management how about one good property management tip that can help one of our investors out there if they let's say they wanna do it themselves as an example. I ask that because you've been doing this for so long. So just give us a tip for a client who's doing their own property management.
Oh, one good tip, if you do choose to, self-manage your property, I would say I would advise one of the scariest things from the property management standpoint would be a fair housing violation. So I would say that know what those regulations are, know what you can and can't do, because it can be very strict, and there's a lot of people out there that are just fishing, just trying to I mean, the HUD is out there they're proactively calling property management companies or individuals that are trying to lease properties and saying, "Oh, well, I would love for my 4 kids to move in." And if you don't follow the exact same process as you did before, that's gonna flag. And sometimes that first fine, if found guilty, will be 10,000. The second fine is upwards of like 35,000. So they will come very, very hard on that. And I think that kind of goes along with crossing all of the T's, dotting all of the I's with the property management. Make sure you've got everything in writing and you've documented everything because it can be kind of a litigious industry and you want to make sure that you're
Mhm.
covered.
Yeah, that's a very good tip because I have one of my properties I used to have in well, it doesn't matter in the state, but we had a professional, literally a professional litigant. That's how he moved from property to property. He would get in lawsuits and scare the owner. I mean, it is scary as a landlord in that regard because you find out the guy's a professional litigant basically, which would have been nice if we found out earlier. But anyway, that's how people make their money and live under someone
Sometimes.
else's roof. And so you have to know, I would say, I'm going to augment that to say you have to know the federal and the state level
Yes.
rules, regs, et cetera, because you could get caught in a bad, bad situation. I remember the movie way before you, you're so young. Pacific Heights, I think was a movie. And the guy, I forgot who was the actor. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the tenants basically totally took advantage of all the rules and regulations and really in effect harmed the landlord as a result. So you got to make sure you know the rules and regulations, both federal and state, because there are people out there who will try to take advantage of you as a
Well, I mean,
landlord.
and there's those residents out there that, like you said, I mean, they may not be professional litigators, but with the ease in which information is readily available, they are aware of things that they can do to prolong. And with scams, I mean, we've had one particular tenant take a manufactured lease screenshot, like put our logo on it with a picture of one of our employees on the lease, and then move into a property and present a fake lease. And so
Dang.
then we had to evict that tenant because it
And
wasn't
it,
our lease, but they forged it. So it's those type things, and it's staying on top of knowing what the scams are and how to avoid them. That you just need to make sure that you're aware of because property management can very much sneak up on you.
again, again, I'll go back to my earlier comment. I think owning real estate, great, great investment, great foundational investment, but there are pitfalls, there's risks. But if you're navigating those risks correctly, you're going to make some pretty good money. I think there's no doubt.
I know. It's kind of funny. It's pretty comical around the office in that they're like, "Man, Lindsay, like you I'm definitely more of an operations person because I'm painting a very real picture." And that I couldn't agree with you more in the scope of investments. Real estate is still one of the best vehicles for wealth, growth, all of it checks all of those boxes. It is historically proven. It is a basic need. So it's not like it's going to go away anytime soon. And in fact, we are actually headed more to be a renter nation over the last 5, 10, 15 years. That started with the millennial generation. So we've seen that shift
Mhm.
to where home ownership is not necessarily priority number one for those wanting to start a family. So this is going to continue to be an even more essential need. And so it's great. It's a great, great investment. But it's no different than any other investments, whether you buy stock in Disney or Coca Cola and they have a terrible lawsuit and the stock takes a hit, there are always risks.
Yeah, but you're in a good spot, and this has been helpful. I think it's been real helpful to the viewers and listeners out there because they're gonna figure out. It sounds like you know what you're doing. Number one, number two, if someone wants mailbox money, you'd be a good candidate. And once again, where do they go if they're interested in learning a little bit more?
Please visit us at spartaninvest.com.
All right, guys. Hey, once again, this is Ken French, Val's Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.